Boy, I should have gotten around to this a lot sooner. And no, this isn't a commission review. This is a case of somebody physically sent me the Blu-ray on this to my P.O. box, which if you ever feel like sending me stuff is down in the description. And I just didn't get to it. But I actually am feeling somewhat slightly caught up on, I mean, like, I know I've got a lot to do and I've got commissions specifically to catch up on, but I mean, like, in the broad scope, some stuff is finished. So I thought, well, why don't I do something that I don't have to do? And then I ended up having enough thoughts that it's worth recording this. So, Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Wow, this was fun. I'd heard generally good things, but this was a lot of fun. Let me be real specific about who the intended audience for this is, though. This assumes you have pretty solid, not like super deep, but like pretty solid knowledge of both Batman and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. While I'm not going to say you can't kind of pick up what everybody's deal is from context, there are so many characters put in this from both franchises, more than I was expecting. Most of it is Batman, to be fair, but like there's enough carryovers of details, etc., from the Ninja Turtles that if you already know this stuff, it's going to put a smile on your face and go, oh, there's that thing. And if you don't, it probably won't detract from it because they don't usually like, it doesn't feel like they ever like have a character show up or whatnot and then like pause for applause. It doesn't feel that bad. But at the same time, like you're just going to go, okay, so that's an okay, whatever. So to get the most out of this, you do kind of need to know both. And I do. This was also a big relief because like you want to talk about inconsistent. The Warner Brothers produced DC animated movies used to be, like years ago, the most reliable adaptations of their comic books. And they can still be good, but the quality has gone up and down. And when they're bad, they're really bad. Not only is this one good, it pulls together shockingly well. Like this felt longer than it was because of how much is crammed into it. But at the same time, it doesn't quite feel overstuffed because for as many characters are shoehorned into this, this seems to understand all of them. And even when like some characters showed up, I'm like, oh, okay, of course they're gonna crowbar that in here. They ended up actually using them in interesting ways regardless. So that was just a delightful surprise. The art style took me a little bit to get used to. It is largely more in line with the DC art style than any of the Ninja Turtle ones. So they're adapting the Turtles and Shredder, etc., into that. And it mostly works. There's a couple things that bugged me initially, but by about halfway through, I wasn't noticing them anymore. Like certain accent or shadow lines on the characters are, at least at first, distractingly bold and thick, like these thick black lines. It looks like something that should have been done like with something as thick as a pencil, but instead was done with like one of those flat end Sharpies, like real thick. And that bugged me for a little bit, but I obviously got over it because I wasn't noticing it anymore by the end. All the characters that do show up have just fun little beats, and there's some interesting and fun stuff. Like fun is the word. Batman is by and large the straight man playing against the often more frivolous Turtles, which that's a good dynamic in the first place. I mentioned way back with the, what was it, Justice League Dark animated movie. I liked that Batman was in that, despite Batman appearing and being the center of way more of these than I think he should be. But he was good in that because he was the straight man to everything that was going on. It's the same case here, and he's real good for that. Voice work is solid. They've got Troy Baker coming in to give his best Kevin Conroy impression, which works. It works. It is more than passable. It's quite a good impression of Kevin Conroy, and that is sort of the feel that we get. Like there's a few even specific call-outs. This is very clearly meant to be the animated series-esque Batman and world of Batman. And I kind of just want to leave it at that before getting into spoilers, because I want to talk about some of the stuff that really made me smile. And those are things that if you are interested in seeing this, stop watching me and just go watch it. it's a lot of fun. It's oh, and stay through the end. Like there is a post-credit scene. That's not even what I'm talking about. Like that's fine, whatever. But during the end credits, they've got all these comic book covers scrolling by of the two mashed up. It's mostly iconic Batman covers with the turtles worked into it. Although there are a couple of classic Turtles comics covers with Batman worked into it. Like they're real fun. They're real fun. So like stick through the credits for that. So it gets a big thumbs up. It gets a big recommendation. This was a great time. Now I'm just gonna kind of gush about fun little touches that I really liked. They balanced the Turtles' personalities pretty well, and they paired them off in ways that, with Batman characters in ways that made sense and were fun and enjoyable. And they remembered that they're all supposed to be actually helpful. One of the things that can happen with Ninja Turtles is some of them, usually Michelangelo, ends up being kind of useless. He actually gets some real good highlight moments, including like showing he can hold his own in a fight, not as well as some of the other turtles, but he's not a pushover, and it remembers that. But so we get Leonardo basically paired off with Batman. Makes sense. The two most serious characters. We have Donatello paired off with Batgirl. Oh, and this is the Batgirl that's like, it's like the full looking suit. The one that like famously did the selfies and had the big yellow boots. Like I love that design. I've not seen it in animation before, so I liked that. They worked well together. They paired Raphael with Damian. Damian Wayne didn't piss me off. I think it helped that because of the lightness of tone of other stuff going on in the story overall, he couldn't drag it down, because I think that's been a big part of the major thing of why I've hated Damian most of the times I've seen him show up in animation, which is that his crappy attitude just pulls everything down to his level. That doesn't happen here. And in fact, his seriousness is often played as a gag compared to what is going on. So I appreciated that. He actually worked for me. And they kind of pair Michelangelo off with Alfred of all people. And that's kind of adorable. I love that. They've got Shredder working with Ra's al Ghul, which just makes all the sense. But like, I adore this version of Baxter Stockman. I don't know if it's analogous to any pre-existing version of Baxter Stockman, but he was great. He is in his fly form, and he is helping, and he seems to like helping, but at the same time he's like, I'm not allowed to leave, and they never pay me. I don't know if I'm a henchman or a hostage, even though I kind of like doing what they have me do. And he's just so unassuming, and he's like, so here's what I'm thinking. Okay, never mind. You have something else going on. All right. I loved him. I loved it. I thought he was fantastic. And when Arkham first showed up, especially when the Joker showed up, that was the point that I was like, oh, God, really? We're going to cram the Joker into this? And when they had the idea of using mutagen on, most of the classic Batman villains, I was kind of like, okay. But then we actually see that play out, and it ended up being fun enough to work for me. Especially with things like Mr. Freeze, who ends up as a polar bear. This is obviously not working off of the either the comic book rules for the mutagen or the classic original 80s and 90s cartoon rules for the mutagen. It seems to just mutate people with an animal that just kind of connects to them, I guess. But he ends up as a polar bear, and he's still got his ice gun. So initially he starts shooting that. I'm like, okay, so he's just bigger with an ice gun. But then they start getting into physical fights with him. He's just throwing everybody around. I'm like, oh, okay, they're actually taking into account how hard it would be to fight a polar bear. All right, that's fun. There's a gag they do with Poison Ivy that, oh, it was so good. It was so good. It's clear this whole thing is done with a lot of love for both properties. Like, there's a moment, it's not quite in the background, but it's kind of off to the side, where you see Raph grab one of the foot soldiers and start boom, 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 either side with his whole body. I'm like, that's like my favorite move from Turtles in Time, the beat 'em up video game, and they just put it in there. And also I have my favorite turtle do it, that was just bonus. Like, it's so much of this is so fun, and they have foot soldiers mutated, and there's a moment where it's just this monstrous kaiju looking thing busts through. And I'm like, what the hell is that I see? It's a T-Rex. I'm like, I don't think that makes any sense, but I love it. I absolutely love it. It was so, this thing knows exactly what it is. It knows how ridiculous it is, because its options in doing this was either to make the Turtles as serious as Batman often is, which is an option. You can do the Turtles in a serious mode. That is always an option. Instead, they were willing to bring, without fully ditching the seriousness, at least for some of the characters, they were able to bring Batman and his entourage into this world of goofiness, because the Turtles are inherently really silly. And that was way more fun. I'm so glad they opted to do this the way that they did. This was great. This was great. And like, so many good individual jokes, more than I could think of. Everybody gets a highlight moment. Even characters who are only there for like a scene, they still get like a little moment. I'm like, see, they understood that character, because even though they're only there briefly, they still did a thing that like was fun and entertaining and fits that character. So it's just, this feels like something that could have been really cynical, but it feels like it was crafted with so much love of everything that is up on the screen, and I had a blast with it. Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills, enables me to do this as my living, even if you can't help me out that way. Like, share, subscribe. They all help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so why don't you just come on back next time you need a break. And now I'd like to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Goddess Elida, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Oliver B., Melissa Pedersen, Movie Turtle, Ulrich Bogdan, Loki Eris, Melinda Walters, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Renabi Likes the Poodle, Tracy Scrabbit, Ingrid Casperl, Dave Hall, Quite Bearish, Rosalind Bennett, Adam RDL Taylor, Pal Barabajoggle, Mira G, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. They're all calmer this time because they're eating papaya. Whatever works.